There's a place tucked deep in the hills of Appalachia called Little Fern Hollow. It's not on most maps anymore. Just a gravel town with 15 houses, one gas station, a shuttered library, and a chapel that no one's been inside since the 1980s. The kind of place where secrets get old enough to become warnings. And warnings turn into rules. And the oldest rule in Little Fern Hollow was this: don't go past the northern tree line. Not after sunset. Not ever. Ask any of the town's elders why, and they'll shrug. We just don't. Ask the children, and they'll tell you about the red-eyed man. He lives in the woods, they whisper. If you look at him, he remembers you. But ask someone who once tried it, someone who wandered too far as a teenager, or took a dare on a drunken night, and you'll get something different. A pause, a twitch in the jaw, maybe the sound of keys tightening in a fist. And then always, ain't nothing back there but trees, and some things are better left unbothered. The woods themselves aren't remarkable. Tall pines, wet moss, rocks scattered like bones. But there's something about them, something unnaturally still. Birds don't chirp past a certain point, wind doesn't move the leaves right, and the fog that rolls in around dusk always seems to move uphill against gravity. Everyone in town knows about the line, the invisible boundary where the air changes, the silence thickens, and time itself feels strange. People swear watches stop there, flashlights flicker, dogs refuse to cross it. But no one remembers why the town avoids it, just that they always have. Back in the 1950s, someone tried to build a house near the northern ridge, a doctor from Charleston, looking for solitude. The house was built fast, white wood, big porch, copper weather vane shaped like a crow. But by winter, the doctor was gone, left in the middle of the night. Didn't even sell the place, just vanished, left every window open. They say the house rotted from the inside out. No storm ever touched it. No vines ever grew on it. But the wood turned black, like it had been soaked in smoke. Someone burned it down in '67. No one knows who. No one asked. By the time you're old enough to drive in Little Fern Hollow, you learn which roads to take and which to avoid. You learn not to whistle after dark. You learn to close your curtains. And most of all, you learn not to ask about the red eyes. Because somewhere in the woods, just beyond where the light runs out, just past where the birds stop singing, there is a figure, tall, thin, watching. And the more you ask, the more he learns. It was early November when he appeared. Cold wind, orange leaves slick with rain. The kind of day that made everyone in Little Fern Hollow walk faster without realizing why. He came down from the north, from the woods. No one saw him arrive. He was just there one morning, sitting on the old bus stop bench next to the general store. Legs too long for his body, head bowed, face in shadow, no luggage, no coat, no shoes. Just a man in an old black suit, like something you'd bury a corpse in. He didn't speak, didn't move. He just sat there, every day, from sunup to sundown, watching. But not the road, the ridge, the tree line. Like something was still out there, waiting for him to look away. People noticed him, of course. Old Mr. Denton offered him a sandwich. No reaction. Nora Wilkes from the diner called the sheriff. Sheriff came by, tried to ask questions. The man didn't flinch, didn't even blink. So they left him. It's what folks in Little Fern Hollow do when something feels wrong. They don't confront it. They just let it settle, like dust over something dangerous. But then came the dreams. First, just whispers, voices calling people's names from far away. Then footsteps, pacing slowly through their homes at night, even though every door was locked. And then the eyes. Everyone began dreaming about a face behind glass, sometimes in a mirror, sometimes in the television, even when it was turned off. A face with no mouth, no nose, just two glowing red eyes, burning like coal beneath snow. And when they woke up, they could still feel those eyes. Like something was watching them, from the inside out. Kids started humming the same tune in school, a tune none of them claimed to know. The preacher's wife was found standing in the backyard at 3 a.m., eyes open, arms at her sides, staring at the woods. When they touched her, she whispered, "He's not in the trees anymore." The man never left the bench, never ate, never stood. But the crows gathered around him, dozens, sometimes more, perched silently on wires and rooftops, watching the same direction he did. And then one day, the bus stop bench was empty. No one saw him go. But at the spot where he always sat, someone found a single pine needle, black as pitch, and a ring of ash burned into the sidewalk in the shape of two eyes. That night, the dream stopped, but something else began. A voice. Low, too low to understand. Speaking from the vents, the drains, the back of closets. Just one sentence, over and over again, don't look at the window. They called themselves the Ridgewalkers. Just 5 kids. Seniors from the high school 2 towns over. Urban kids. Suburban confidence. They weren't from Fern Hollow, just heard about the place through online forums, message boards, spooky podcast clips. They thought the stories were cute. Red-eyed man. The line in the trees. Just old Appalachian ghost lore. They packed up 2 cameras, a drone, thermal gear, and an EMF reader. It was supposed to be a Halloween stunt. 48 Hours in Dead Hollow, they titled it on their video teaser. What they captured was never posted. They parked their van on the shoulder of Route 17 and hiked in on foot, crossed the boundary where even moss refused to grow. They laughed at the silence, the creepy vibes, the motionless trees, set up camp just below the ridge. At 3:17 a.m., the drone feed went static. By 3:20, all 5 of them were running. Only one made it back. Her name was Margot. She was found just before dawn by a gas station clerk, barefoot, soaked to the bone, with blood under her nails and a fractured wrist. She couldn't speak. Not for weeks. When she finally did, she only said one thing, over and over again. It knew our names before we said them. The local sheriff got a warrant to seize the footage. They never made it public. But a tech at the station leaked 3 still frames before resigning. Frame 1. The 5 teens gathered at a circle of pine trees, grinning, making fun of the silence. In the distance, a long figure between 2 trunks, unnoticed by them, but clear as day. Frame 2. The drone hovering over the ridge, capturing something pale and fast, darting through the trees on all 4s. Frame 3. A close-up of Margot, pointing into the dark. Behind her, a tall silhouette with eyes like open wounds. No mouth. Just stretched, black skin and something glowing red where a face should be. That night, someone left a package on the church steps. Inside, the rest of the footage. And 4 cell phones, all unlocked. Each phone had only 1 photo in its camera roll. All 4 were pictures of their own owners, taken from behind, in the dark, from inside the tent. The next morning, the gas station clerk was gone, vanished. No note, just his uniform, neatly folded, and a single pine needle pressed between the pages of a Bible. Since then, the ridge hasn't been quiet. People say they hear laughter, far off but repeating, like it's on loop. Some say the laughter is starting to sound younger. And every Halloween since, someone new disappears. Not from the woods, but from their beds. With the same signs. Windows locked, doors untouched, and footprints, wet with moss, leading to nowhere. For a while, folks in Little Fern Hollow tried to pretend nothing had changed. They stopped talking about the 5 kids. They boarded up the road north. The sheriff made quiet visits to families, urging them to keep curtains drawn and, above all, don't leave anything that knows your name out at night. No one understood what that meant at first. But then, the windows started tapping. It was always the same. 3 knocks. Soft, measured. Always between 2:40 and 2:45 a.m. Sometimes front windows, sometimes basement ones. Once, even the small attic porthole of the town librarian's house, 5 meters off the ground, no ladder in sight. People reported seeing nothing when they looked. But by morning, there'd be 2 prints on the glass, not fingerprints, not handprints, but elongated smudges, each one shaped like an eye, staring back. By the 3rd week, more began noticing reflections acting wrong. Mirrors in bathrooms showed faces that weren't theirs, familiar, but just slightly off. A man saw himself brushing his teeth, but the reflection was still smiling when he turned away. Children said the screen of the TV showed a man standing in the corner, even when the power was off. And always, always, those glowing red eyes. It escalated. Miss Tabitha Quinn, a widow in her 70s, called the sheriff in tears. She said she heard her late husband's voice calling her from the window. Soft, gentle, saying her name the way only he used to. But when she opened the curtain, she didn't see him. She saw herself, standing out in the yard, grinning, and behind her double, just over the shoulder, was a tall, pitch-black silhouette with eyes like wet embers. A week later, Tabitha was gone. All the locks were still latched from the inside. Her bed was untouched, but on the wall beside the mirror in her room, written in wet soot, were the words, "I've learned how to knock." The town started sealing their homes, duct taping curtains, nailing boards over vents, stuffing chimneys with towels. People slept in shifts, they unplugged electronics. Some even broke their mirrors. But it didn't help, because now it wasn't just windows, it was dreams. They began dreaming of a house with no doors, just windows. Dozens, hundreds, all fogged except one. And behind that one, always a figure, motionless, watching, never moving, until they blinked. And when they woke up, there would be mud on their floors. By then, even the most skeptical folks admitted it. The red-eyed man didn't live in the woods anymore. He was already inside. There was an old man in Little Fern Hollow named Jacob Wyatt, the last living person who'd grown up there before the town stopped speaking of the ridge. He was 92. Quiet. The kind of man who sat with his face to the wall, even at church. Folks called him the Hollow Ghost, not because he told stories, but because he refused to. About anything. But after the windows started whispering and the people started vanishing, and the mirrors stopped showing just one reflection, Jacob finally spoke. Just 4 words. You remembered him wrong. Sheriff Adams visited him the next day, brought an old cassette recorder, sat with Jacob as he lit a candle and stared into the flame like it was a face he hated. And Jacob told the truth, or what was left of it. We made him, not with rituals or sacrifice, with attention, with fear, with stories. He wasn't a man at first, just something watching, curious, a shape behind trees. But someone gave it a name, then we gave it eyes, and then it looked back. Every time someone warned a child, every time we whispered his name, we fed him, and when someone finally went looking for him, he trailed off, eyes glowing in the candlelight like they remembered something he had no words for. Then he whispered, he learns through memory. The sheriff asked what to do, how to stop it. Jacob said nothing, just blew out the candle. That night, Jacob Wyatt burned down his own house, walked into the fire, never screamed. The only thing left was his tape recorder, melted, fused to the floor. But the tape inside was untouched, no voice, just silence. And at the very end, a single sound, a slow, breathy whistle. Since then, things have changed. The people of Little Fern Hollow stopped telling the story. They painted over the windows. They tore up the road to the ridge. Every book, every tape, every document that mentioned the red-eyed man was buried in a locked vault below the old town hall. And slowly, the tapping stopped. The dreams faded. People stopped disappearing. Almost like forgetting worked. But forgetting comes at a cost. People who leave the town, they start remembering again. Little things, the shape in a cloud, a whistle in traffic, 2 smudges on a hotel mirror that won't clean off, a radio static that sounds almost like breathing. And when they do, they start talking. And when they talk, someone listens. And when he listens, he finds the door again. So here's the only warning you'll get. If you've heard of Little Fern Hollow now, if you've read this story or watched this video, don't repeat it. Don't retell it. Don't even think about it too long. Because he's not in the woods anymore. He's not in the glass. He's in the remembering. And he's already seen your face.